Good morning. Today I'm going to be making soap and my husband will be doing a video. So we're going to start by making sure that we have the recipe printed out and list of supplies. Alright, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the supplies. I'm going to start at the far end over here. You're going to want to have parchment paper and a thick towel ready. This is for the very end. As I mentioned, your printouts, molds. I just got these silicone molds off of eBay, and Craig knocked together some wood to make sure they're solid for when you pour it in, and then when you remove them you can just pull it out. You can buy on Amazon this whole thing a little more professional. Your protective gear, gloves. I make sure I have plenty on hand because I take them off and then later I need to put some new ones on. You always want to have good eye protection. Your eyes are the main thing you definitely want to protect when you're working with lye. Here I have my lye and my distilled water. You want to use distilled water, not purified. Don't ask me why. And then I use plastic disposable cups to measure my lye into, just because often there are a few little granules left in there and I can just throw it in the trash and not worry about it. Scales. This is just a very inexpensive Aldi scales that I've been using for 6 years, so it doesn't have to be anything amazing. I use a glass pourable mixing jar to mix my lye and water. You want a nice thick glass to, it's a very chemically volatile substance, and I think a lot of people do use plastic as well. I just chose to use glass. Also, I like that it's pourable because you need to pour it into your oils later. Wire whisk, stick blender, and here are my oils. I use these three: palm oil, olive oil, and refined coconut oil. This right here is calendula flowers. Every time I make soap, I say I'm just gonna make plain soap this time. But then every time I make soap, I say, how much fun would it be to just throw a little something in there? Last time I used some lavender flowers I had on hand, and it smells just this light lavender smell, but you get a little bit tired of rubbing bits of flowers onto your cloth. So this time I said I'm making plain soap, but then I might end up adding a few flowers. Let's see. Calendula is my favorite. It's so good for your skin. It has this mild smell. It's like pretty creamy color. Alright, I use 2 candy thermometers. One to stick in the oils, the other to stick into the lye, so that I can keep tabs on both of them at the same time. This is what I use to mix all my soap ingredients together. It's a good high quality plastic. You always want to have about a gallon of vinegar on hand. Vinegar, it will cancel out if you get any of the lye solution, you know, splattered on your arm or something. Quick, put some vinegar on. You know, it's debatable if that's helpful or more painful, but also I pour vinegar into some hot water in the sink, and I keep a good big sink full of it, and as soon as I'm finished with some dishes that have solution or the soap mixture on them, I put them into the vinegar water because it will cancel out the chemical process that's going on and that could hurt someone if they touch it. Alright, there it is. Now we're going to go ahead and start. First thing that I do, after setting that on there, is get my vinegar water ready. I pour like a quarter or a third of the gallon in, whether or not that's necessary. Don't let that run. Alright, water, 10.89 ounces. I am making a double batch because that's what we use about every 6 months. Because I don't have a math brain at this point in my life, I've just measured out twice instead of figuring out all the ounces and everything. A little bit too much? Good enough? All right. I set this into my other sink because if the glass would decide to explode, it would all be in the sink and not all over my kitchen. But it won't explode. All right. Now, start the scales over, and I'm going to do my lye. Now, since I'm starting to work with lye, I suit up in my hazmat suit. I used to wear a jacket with long sleeves or something like that, but pretty much I'm just very careful and never get any of it splattered on myself, almost never, and it's never really been a problem, so I just make sure my hands are protected and these jazzy things. All right, lye 4.63. This is my least favorite part. Chunk in there. .60, that's going to be good enough. Now I'm going to do my next one. I try to be really careful when pouring the lye that I don't over pour. If I over pour, I just dump it into the trash, the little bit of extra, instead of trying to get it back in and possibly spray it around on my counter. All right, I have my lye measured out. While I am whisking the water gently, I very carefully pour it in. Slowly, not too fast. This is where you might want to have some ventilation. Don't breathe too deeply because, the chemical reaction lets off some sort of chemical smells. See, in the cup there's some little bits left. That's why I use disposable. Get rid of that. Pouring in my second one. Slowly as I whisk. So then I whisk this solution until it is kind of clear. You want to make sure all the lye is dissolved so there aren't any crystals in your soap. Another reason that I like to start this off in my sink is this solution, when you mix it together, it becomes extremely hot. I should stick that candy thermometer in and tell you how hot it gets. Very hot. And so sometimes earlier in my life I would just start this in the morning, let it set there for a couple hours, go about my day, and then when it's starting to cool enough, I'd come back and finish the soap. But now that I've got big kids and little kids and middle kids, I don't leave lye sitting around. So then I will fill my sink partially with ice water. That will cool it down quite a bit more quickly, and then you want to really keep tabs on it so it doesn't cool down too quickly, because when you mix your oils with your lye solution, you want both of them to be between 120 and 130 degrees. So if your lye, I have done it before where the lye solution cooled too quickly and I didn't have my oils melted together and cool enough, so then I had to add hot water to the sink and it becomes quite the process. So that's the kind of the challenge of making soap, is this part right here where you want to get both sets of ingredients between 120 and 130 at the same time, because that's when you can mix them together. All right, it is now clear enough that I can kind of see the bottom of the glass bowl, so I don't see, yeah, actually I do see a few little granules, and I'll keep whisking. Some stubborn ones, probably from that old bottle. Now, because this whisk has lye solution on it, I'll pop it into the vinegar water, which, no, it's fine. All right, now I'll take one of the candy thermometers, attach it to the side of my jar so that the point is in the middle of the water, and it is showing that it is at, it's over 200 degrees right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some ice water. Spray into your lye solution because everything's measured perfectly. Now, I'm going to leave that there, but I'm going to keep an eye on it so it doesn't cool too quickly for me. Now it is time to start on our oils. I put my oils straight into here, but I use another easily microwavable container because I need to get my oils up to 120, between 120 and 130. Alright, microwave for a minute. It's all liquid. Give it a little stir. Now I'm going to measure. I need 32 ounces when I'm done. I like to have like 4 silicone spatulas on hand because I use them for so many different steps. Alright, good enough. Also, I make sure I have paper towels on hand. Going to microwave this for a minute. Now, after a minute or two, this will go blank and will give me problems, so sometimes I just kind of push on it to keep it active because I need to know exactly how much I have in there minus the weight of the container. Many of these things which I learned the hard way. I used to make soap for fun. I started making soap for fun. I would do layers and colors and put essential oils in, which is really one of the nicest gifts you can give someone is a beautiful bar of soap you made yourself. But then I had more and more kids, and working with lye just got harder. So now I will only make soap if Craig is home to babysit or make sure that the kids don't need me. This happened. I made that choice after I made soap one time and the baby thought she needed to be nursed and my lye cooled too far, and instead of heating it back up I just mixed it and it wasn't the best soap. It still worked. So I'm going to give this a stir, see where we're at. Okay, so, alright, so I used a whole container where it says 32 ounces, but I still needed to use a little bit of my second container, which is why I freaked out before when I didn't have that on hand. Alright, we're done with the palm oil. We have it at 2 pounds. Now, when I do my other oils, I like to do it in a glass jar. First, I like to measure it in a glass jar because once you've poured it in here and mixed it with your palm oil, you can't take it back out if you over pour. Alright, next we're going to do coconut oil, which is 9 ounces times 2. Now I can tell this is not very warm, so I'm definitely going to need to heat this up pretty good. Better check on this. Ooh, we're down to 140 already, so I'm going to take the ice water out because I don't want it to go too quickly. Did I say 9 ounces? Almost there. Right on. Microwave. I'm going to go ahead and microwave that for 2 minutes so we can get these oils heated up. So as I was saying, when I did my soap for fun, one of my favorite soaps to make was a lime, I called it lime swirl, and I watched videos to figure out how to do what they call a tiger swirl. And you would take part of your lye after it reaches trace, put it in another container, add color to one or a different color to the other. I used essential oils. You have to use a lot of essential oils because a lot of it is lost in the chemical saponification process. And you swirl it together. That's a lot of fun. But I decided not to do it for fun anymore. So our family goes through 2 of these cakes of soap in about 6 months' time. We use it in the shower and the bathroom sinks, and we love it. It's very, it's not hard on your skin. It lathers really well, and that's partly because this recipe is super fatted. Don't think too hard about that word. But anyway, it just means that there are more oils in the soap than the lye is going to eat up. And so as it's cleansing, it is also moisturizing, and it just lathers really well. So this recipe I got from my soap mentor. A friend of mine, her mother-in-law, had made soap for years, and so she offered to be my soap mentor when I started, and she helped me troubleshoot and taught me a lot by email. So it's her recipe that I use, and we really like it. Okay, this is definitely hot. So let's go ahead and pour that in. That is 1. Since I'm making a double batch, I'm going to do it again. 9 ounces. Okay. 2 minutes. Now, mix this together. And my hands always get so nice and moisturized when I'm making soap because of these fantastic oils. I like to use a long, narrow container to mix the soap into, because when you start using the stick blender, if you have a big shallow bowl, it can splatter out a lot quicker. So that's why I really like this. So we're inching up over 100. But we definitely need some hot oil in here to keep bumping it up. Second batch of coconut oil going in. All right. Now I'm going to give it a stir. Try to get the temperature even throughout. I'm going to test the temperature before I add the olive oil so that I know if I need to heat the olive oil or not. My lye solution is almost at 130, so if I can get this one, 125, I think we'll be good to go. Okay, we're almost at 125 right now. And so if I add room temperature olive oil, it will cool it a little too far. So I'm going to go ahead and, ouch, it's still hot. Heat my olive oil just a little bit. Alright. 8 ounces of olive oil, so I'm going to put 16 in for the double batch. Now I'm going to warm this. Anybody's guess. Let's start with a minute. Oh, that's a lot of oil. I'm going to start with two minutes. Because my lye solution is currently just below 130, so you want to get your oil solution and your lye solution as close as possible without, frustrating yourself. So they do say 120 to 130, so you've got 10 degrees there where they don't have to be exactly at the same place. Just so amazing that this, along with lye, makes soap. Okay, we're done with that. Now we're going to check the temperature. When I remove my handy thermometer, I dip, as far as it went into the solution, I dip into the vinegar water to cancel that out. Wipe it off, and we're good with that. Alright, new spatula. I do this in the sink. This is where you want to be super careful. Okay, you want to have your stick blender in your oil. And you just gently pour the lye solution in. Okay, then into the vinegar water. Immediately start blending. You can see it immediately begins to change color. This is about when the baby decides to walk in. When you're checking what they call trace, you lift it up and you just kind of see, does it leave sort of a trace on top or whatever. This is getting close, but to me this is still a little watery. I try to keep the end of the stick blender in there at all times while I'm blending so it doesn't splatter out. It's getting there. I often do sort of some manual stirring to make sure it's all ready. So I do it about to here. I don't know if you can see just where it's at. It's not a big deal that you hit it on perfectly. Now you don't want to get distracted right now because the longer you leave, okay, put that straight in the vinegar water. The longer you leave your soap solution, I've got some on my gloves, so I'm going to change gloves. The thicker it will get. Also, this is when I like to feel adventurous. Give it a little stir. Get those calendula flowers sort of mixed in. Not a big deal. It's getting thicker. So now I just pour into the molds. This is one of the fun parts. Get it in there. This recipe is just a little more than these molds can take. I often fill a couple silicone muffin, not tins, but whatever you call them, with some soap to give away. Or I just pile it up in here, depending on the mood. You can see how thick that's getting. You don't want it a lot thicker than that. Okay, this is like too piled up. I don't like it that full. It doesn't make a nice straight top, but also it's harder to use your parchment on. So I will dip some of this out. It's getting thicker and thicker. Okay, now you can see how that's nice and flat. Okay, I like to kind of do this to try to get rid of any air holes in there, just because it looks nicer when the soap comes out with no air holes. These little muffin shaped ones, they can work nicely at the sink for hand washing, or as gifts, of course. Okay, I don't really like touching it even with my gloves, so there's just going to be some going into the trash with a paper towel. Now, this into the vinegar water, this into the vinegar water to cancel out the chemical reaction that's going on. Make sure it all gets covered in vinegar water so I don't hurt myself later. New glove. This is not essential. Like, you can just leave it as is and it will do its thing, but for starters I could just see one of my kids shooting a rubber band into there or something. So I like to cover it up, but also because it can get sort of an ash over the top if you don't cover it up. If you're using colors, oxides, whatever, you're going to definitely want to cover the top, I think, for the sake of the color doing a good job, being nice and clear. Alright, always cover it with parchment first. That can help kind of smooth out the top. You can feel it, it's warm just from the chemical reaction that's going on right now. So amazing. Smooth out the top. Ooh, that's hot. Let's keep going on. And then, so that it doesn't do its thing too quickly, or don't ask me why. I like to do this. I didn't do it one time and didn't like the results. So, all safe and snuggly. About 24 hours later, not at all has to be on 24 hours. Like, it's 11:40, sometime tomorrow morning, it's Sunday tomorrow, sometime tomorrow, I will finish off the video by showing you how I take them out and slice them. There we are. The dishes are not my favorite part. They're just messy and a little scary and whatever. But I use my dishwasher. But for this one that has still has a bunch of stuff in, I do wash it out first to get most of the stuff off, because it has left a residue on the dishes when I haven't done it. But this one can go straight in. It's pretty much, these are mostly, I mean, I think they are safe now because of the vinegar water, but I still always breathe a sigh of relief when I have all my dishes taken care of and no more of that sort of weird half-made soap sludge going on. Sometimes even just, you know, a paper towel can do a better job of getting some of that out of there. All right, that's good enough right there. The rest of it should kind of go to nothing in there. So I got a little bit on my arm and it is burning a little bit, so I'll probably not freak out, but put some vinegar on there. And I'll probably wash out my sink with just straight vinegar just to make sure everything is okay. All right, that should do it for now. All right, this is Sunday now. It actually happens to be Sunday evening and when I'm getting to this. So, remove your silicone mold upside down. This is the fun part. When this smooth loaf of soap pops out. There it is. So beautiful. All right. Dinged up that corner a little bit. It's still pretty soft because it still has quite a bit of moisture in it. So I am not very scientific when I cut. Sometimes I kind of score the top a little bit. Did we decide we want some really big chunky ones this time? I think this time we're going to do some like half. Like that.
Oh, I don't see what the problems is with that.
We're going to try a really big bar of soap this time because our theory is every time you get down to the sliver of soap, you just throw it out, or we just throw it out. So if you have a bar of soap this big, you will eliminate a little bit of waste. We're going to try that. And if you need to slice it later, it slices just not as easily. Okay, these I'm going to do a little more traditional sized, although those are still pretty big bars of soap. We like our bars big. Nice. That makes me happy. All right, I'm going to take these over to where I'm going to store them before I cut the other loaf of soap. I'm going to store mine on a piece of parchment paper because last time it pulled up a little paint after a couple months on the cabinet. Here you can see these that I pulled out of the silicone muffin molds. That's how I make soap. Hope you enjoy. This side is so glassy, it just makes me so happy.